Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we're going to talk about the 20th anniversary of Women Managing the Farm. Jennie Bracken from American Ag Credit will join us to talk about what could be a very action-packed and informative conference coming up mid-February in Manhattan. We'll also have features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, along with the weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In agricultural news, Kansas State University researchers report a breakthrough in developing wheat-based foods that contain lower amounts of gluten. It's a discovery that could lessen the adverse effects of celiac disease and other autoimmune diseases. Scientists from K-State, the Ag Research Service, and in partnership with Kansas Wheat have successfully used the gene editing technique called CRISPR to reduce the presence of two types of gluten-coding genes. Gluten is the protein found in wheat, barley, and rye, and when people with celiac disease eat gluten, their body mounts an immune response that attacks the small intestine and a small finger-like projections that help the body absorb nutrients. Researchers admit that they were surprised that once the genes got edited, it reduced the immunotoxicity. However, gluten will be completely removed from the wheat as it is important to make bread. While the reduced gluten levels achieved so far won't make wheat safe to use, they say it is an important step moving forward. Well, the ag equipment market began a downward trend a year ago, and dealers say that 2024 might be the roughest year since COVID of 2020. In the Dealer Business Outlook and Trend Report, it shows a combination of recovering inventories, high interest rates, and a general economic downturn that dealers have preparing to weather a storm in 2024. The new survey showed a significant drop in optimism in dealers' new and used whole goods revenue forecasts, while parts and service revenue forecast hit some record highs. Now, the dealers aren't facing the kind of equipment shortages that dampened their optimism in the previous report, but price increases remain a factor despite falling from 2022 peaks. Now, there is some degree of optimism remained based on healthy farm financials and solid commodity prices, but the question of how much cash farmers will bring to the new year does remain in question as revenue projections are negative as demand is declining. And the U.S. and Brazil, major competitors when it comes to exporting soybeans around the world. USDA's Economic Research Service did a study to figure out how those changes in factors underlying production, marketing costs, and infrastructure might affect export competitiveness. Among some of the key findings, the cost of production differed between the two, partially because Brazil relies on more custom services to provide equipment and labor in the field. Now, U.S. farms tend to own their own machinery. An average per acre cost of producing soybeans per acre in Brazil, 19% below the U.S. in the marketing year 21 and 22 because of lower land and capital costs. Brazil's producers had a higher national average return per bushel of total cost in the U.S. in 21-22 at $4.05 a bushel compared with $2.13. The U.S. heartland, the lowest cost exporter of soybeans, Parana in Brazil, the second lowest shipper as it's close to a port. When we come back, we'll talk the 20th anniversary of Women Managing the Farm here on the Kansas Ag Report.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
And joining us now is Jennie Bracken, who is with American Ag Credit. And she is joining us because we're going to talk about a big event coming up in February. It's the 20th anniversary of Women Managing the Farm. Jennie, let's talk about this monumental event.
Yes, thank you, Ken. Well, as Ken mentioned, this is the 20th anniversary of the Women Managing the Farm Conference. The Women Managing the Farm Conference was started in 2003 as a means for ladies who found themselves in the role of leading a farming or ranching operation and to support the needs that they may have in that role. As time has progressed, this conference has become such an asset to many women in agriculture, women in all roles of agriculture, whether they are managing the operation, whether they are helping with the operation, whether maybe they even just married into the operation. But there's so many pieces of information that ladies can pick up at this conference that's beneficial to them and their business.
Well, it seems like in kind of watching this develop over the years, it started out as maybe some of the basics, and there's still some of that, but there's a lot of really pretty in-depth things of regardless of what phase you are in agriculture. It may not be all production agriculture, but it all helps together. But I hear from some of those that have attended this in the past, like many places where agriculture folks go together, some of the best learning, some of the best relationships are formed in between those sessions. I mean, you get a lot of other sessions, but also it's a time to kind of learn how everything is all over the state.
That's correct. There's a wide variety of information and education that's provided at the conference, Ken. Everything from risk management, technology, soil care, cattle management, grassland management, having even emotional well-being, just everything that goes into being on farming and ranching operation. And then you also mentioned the networking piece. That networking piece is so vital to our industry, I believe. And we offer time at the conference where women from different areas of the state can network based on where they find themselves in their operation and their role within their operation. So we found that to be very beneficial in some of the feedback we've received from many of the attendees.
And now in a bit, we'll tell folks where they can go register, get more information, be a part of it. And it's going to be held in Manhattan in February. So you have just a little bit of time, but we want to make sure we had this out. So we're going to take a quick break and talk maybe a little bit more about some of those featured presenters and also how to get more information. And also what makes us all go around is some of those folks that have really been a part and supporting the Women Managing the Farm series. So we'll be back with more in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
We're talking the 20th anniversary of the Women Managing the Farm Conference. Jennie Bracken with American Ag Credit is joining us, and she is, and her group is one of those that is on the committee to put all this together. So, Jennie, let's talk about some of the highlights of the presenters and some of those keynote speakers.
Yes, thank you, Ken. Yes, I'm representing American Ag Credit and the Farm Credit Association of Kansas on the committee for the Women Managing the Farm Conference. We have a power-packed lineup this year for the conference. It'll be February 14th through the 16th in Manhattan, Kansas at the Hilton Garden Inn. We'll kick off our conference on Wednesday evening or Wednesday afternoon with some pre-conference tracks. And then we'll start up Thursday morning with renowned author and speaker Mark Mayfield as our Thursday morning keynote. Thursday lunch, we will come back and we will listen to Terrain's grain and oilseed analyst Matt Roberts. And then we'll start over Friday morning with a keynote that's somewhat new to our conference this year. We've always had individual keynotes and we haven't had panels before. But this year we are going to hear from a panel from the Kansas Master Farmer Homemakers. Ladies such as Donna Pearson McClish, Rhonda Perry, and Larice Schwederman will share, I guess, the ins and outs, what it's like being on a farm and ranch full time, and just have a question and answer panel and some great information from those women. And then we'll wrap up Friday at noon with Ag Inspirations from Kim Brimmer.
Well, sounds like a lot of good folks, a lot of good Kansans as well that will help share stories, and sounds like a good thing. So now we also want to tell folks where they can register. And I know there's some deadlines coming up if you want to maybe get a little bit of a break and make sure that you have a place there at the Women Managing the Farm Conference. So how can folks get more information?
Absolutely. So for more information or to register, you can visit womenmanagingthefarm.com. You can register for $175 up through January 18th. After January 18th, that price increases to $200. We also have a student rate of $75 for any students who want to attend. And then we have a lot of information at womenmanagingthefarm.com. We have information on the different breakouts. We'll have everything in breakout sessions from Dr. Tara Barnhart talking about the business of raising beef, to profitability in your operation with Lavelle Windsor and Robin Reed. We'll have information on QuickBooks, soil health, grassland management, just a wide variety of information that we'd love to have people come and ladies come and attend and take home some valuable info to their operation. And then one other thing I'd like to add, Ken, is we have some pre-conference options on the afternoon and evening of February the 14th. Couple of things there. We have a Rise and Renew Wellness and Resetting in Ag. So that will be that Wednesday afternoon. And then something new this year to the conference is what we call the Sunflower State Showcase. And what that is it's an opportunity to have pickup sites at several locations throughout the state, where if ladies want to attend the conference, but they don't want to drive that far by themselves, they can join a group of other women at a pickup site, and they can kind of caravan up there together or carpool up there together in a van. They will hit some ag tourism sites on the way and just have a fun trip up to the conference. They'll be there for the conference, and then that same group will travel back to their pickup site when the conference is over. So some great pre-conference activities, some amazing information throughout the conference, and just a great few days there in Manhattan.
All right, Jenny, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing a lot of folks at the Women Managing the Farm conference. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it, Ken.
Jennie Bracken, who is with American Ag Credit. And we've been talking about the 20th anniversary of the Women Managing the Farm conference coming up mid-February in Manhattan. We'll have more coming up in just a moment. Stay with us.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Hi, my name is Rachel and I'm an agronomist from K-State, and today we're going to talk about corn germination and emergence. So I don't know if you have a favorite recipe, but there's certain ingredients that you have to make your favorite recipe. I really like chocolate chip cookies, and I have to have all the right things to make my chocolate chip cookies. When we're talking about corn germination, there are three main ingredients that we need to have for that corn seed to germinate successfully. The first is moisture. The second is oxygen, and the third is warmth. So if we're thinking about moisture, the first step of the germination process is water going into the seed. It's a process called imbibing. The corn is imbibing the water, and it has to take in 30% of its weight in water. And if you were to compare that to humans, if you weigh 100 pounds, that would be like you drinking 3.5 gallons of water. So it takes in a lot of water to start that process. When that water comes into the seed, that starts all the chemical reactions that are happening inside that seed for the germination process to work. And in order for those chemical reactions to happen, oxygen has to be present so that the corn seed can respire. That's the process of those chemical reactions happening. If we have oxygen, we have water, but there's a really important ingredient we haven't talked about yet, and that's warmth. So corn has a base temperature of 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which means that it needs to be at least 50 degrees for that corn plant to grow and develop. So that's the same for a corn seed too. If you put a corn seed in the soil and the soil temperature is not 50 degrees, your corn plant will not be able to germinate. It could actually rot in the soil if it doesn't have the warmth it needs to really get going. And germination, when we're talking about soil temperature, is really important for farmers because you want to make sure that your soil temperature is evenly, consistently between 50 and 55 degrees before you put your corn seeds in the ground to make sure that they all come up at the same time. So we talked about germination, which is the process of the embryo exiting the seed. So the radicle is the first part that comes out of the seed and it grows down and becomes the root. The coleoptile grows out of the embryo side of the seed and grows up, and that's the first thing we see. Emergence is the process of that plant coming up above the ground where we can see it. So germination is the embryo exiting the seed, and emergence would be when that plant comes above the ground where we can see it. And those are the two steps of germination and emergence for corn.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Scientists from K-State's Wheat Genetics Resource Center and the USDA's Agricultural Research Service, in partnership with Kansas Wheat, successfully used gene editing to reduce the presence of two types of gluten-coating genes called gliadins that are known to be abundant in immunoreactive peptides. We reduced the immunotoxicity caused by the gliadin genes in the wheat by 47-fold, said Edward Okanoff, University Distinguished Professor in K-State's Department of Plant Pathology and Director of the Wheat Genetics Resource Center. Okanoff said gluten likely will never be completely removed from the wheat since it is important for bread making. Gluten provides the texture, flavor, and moisture in such products as bread, bagels, pastries, noodles, and more. Okanoff added that even though reduced levels of gluten achieved in this study won't make wheat immediately safe for those with severe levels of celiac disease, it is important to step forward. The very nature of scientific study and wheat breeding means varieties with reduced gluten content may not be available to consumers for many years. Aaron Harries, Vice President of Research and Operations for Kansas Wheat, said the trait would not be included in all new varieties and most likely would be grown under contract with food manufacturers. Harries said, "Wheat research is focused on developing new varieties and meet the demands of the consumer. Developing wheat that is safer for celiac sufferers decreases the number of consumers forced to consider wheat alternatives." K-State's research, which has received funding from Kansas Wheat, USDA's National Institute for Food and Agriculture, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Aaron and Richard Baldwin are fourth-generation farmers in Barton County who grow corn, soybeans, winter wheat, milo, industrial hemp, and background cattle. They work alongside Melissa, Aaron's wife, who is an independent crop research scientist. In 2020, the Nelson Baldwins opened South Bend Industrial Hemp, which provides services from seed to final sale to help farmers diversify and grow industrial hemp for fiber production. They were the first commercial fiber processing facility in the United States and welcomed grower groups to visit their operation. The family advocates for agriculture and invests in the younger generations. Melissa currently serves as Vice President of the Barton County Farm Bureau Board and is the YF&R Chair. Together, they have helped organize the local Kids Ag Day, which introduces hundreds of fourth grade students to agriculture. The family hosts a radio show, which discusses the industrial hemp and other developing industries within Kansas. The Nelson Baldwins enjoy connecting with consumers through social media and conversations around food and finding ways to diversify agriculture practices.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Raised with Respect is a new campaign developed as part of a strategic partnership between Sysco and Certified Angus Beef. The collaboration focuses on supporting producers, equipping them with continuing education to stay current on best management practices, and helping to increase consumer confidence in beef production. Part of the partnership includes Sysco and CAB providing beef quality assurance training and certification to ranchers in 9 key cattle production states, including Kansas, Florida, Iowa, Kentucky, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Texas. The Kansas event is scheduled for June 25th in Manhattan. More details will be posted on cabcattle.com/raisedwithrespect as the date draws nearer. BQA is a nationally recognized education and certification program encompassing the best practices for animal handling, cattle nutrition, and the responsible use of antibiotics. According to research conducted by NCBA on behalf of the Beef Checkoff, 70% of consumers say that BQA certification increases their confidence in knowing the beef they eat is safe. Additionally, 67% agree it increases their confidence that cattle are humanely raised. Producers interested in becoming BQA certified but not able to attend an in-person event are encouraged to complete the free course online at bqa.org.
More farmers and ranchers than ever have chosen to be BQA certified.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Good morning, I'm Jake McCall with Pinion Ag. It's been a tough start to the year for those who make their living with row crops. Favorable weather for South American growers, as well as lagging exports, have combined to keep a lid on most rallies in the grain and oilseed markets in an otherwise quiet news environment. Starting with our peers south of the equator, we are receiving reports of the beginning of harvest, where the early soybeans are disappointing growers in Brazil. It should be noted that these would be the beans most affected by the heat and lack of rainfall back in November, so it is no surprise that the stress has caused some damage. At the time, there was plenty said about the drought conditions and the significant amount of ground that had to be replanted due to poor emergence, which grain market bulls have relied on heavily when arguing in favor of higher soybean prices. Rains have become more reliable recently, however, so it will be interesting to see just what we end up with for total production from Brazilian and Argentinian growers. Export sales had been steady throughout the fall, but the U.S. still faces significant headwinds, including the low water levels in the Mississippi and the limited traffic going through the Panama Canal. Most sources believe that Chinese buyers are filling gaps with U.S. cargoes while they wait to see what production will be in Brazil, as they would prefer to purchase the bulk of their needs from South America. As we move forward, the bulls will need to see some serious export business, especially for corn, which is in a much higher carryout situation than are the soybeans. As we record this, the markets are anxiously awaiting the supply and demand report on Friday the 12th, which many will hope will give a much-needed boost to the current grain markets. On the cattle side, we have worked relatively sideways since the start of the year after a very gratifying December rally. Brutal winter storms across the country will certainly play a part in reducing seasonally large carcass weights, as fat cattle use more energy for maintaining their condition rather than putting on pounds. The same storms, however, have affected slaughter numbers, with plants having to shut down in some cases with blizzard conditions. Moving forward, we will be monitoring cutout values as other cuts race to replace the rib as the main value holder after the holidays. In the energy markets, crude has consolidated around the $72 mark, but remains in a long-term downtrend. Geopolitical issues remain a worry for tankers around the world, but so far those fears have not led to any more widespread problems. If you have any questions about the markets or would like to take a look at your own marketing plan, feel free to give us a call at 888-452-8751. My name is Jake McCall with Pinion Ag, and I hope you have a great day.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
That's our show this week. Be social with us online, KansasAgReport.net, or our social media channels. You can also catch us on the radio from 7 to 11 at KBUF AM and WesternKansasBroadcast.com if you want to listen online. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Kansas Ag Report.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.